does your dream life look like? Is it adventurous, filled with traveling and once-in-a-lifetime experiences? Mine is quite different. You see, I'm living a boring life and I'm absolutely loving it. It wasn't always like this, for years and years I felt like I was wasting my life, like nothing I did was exciting enough to make me feel like I was living each day like it was my last. And that made me feel like a failure because no matter how much I tried, I just couldn't do it. Then one day, absolutely exhausted and depressed from chasing excitement, I realized just how much of that angst is drilled into our brains by marketing and people wanting to sell us stuff. You see the shiny ads of people in exotic locations, skydiving or something crazy like that, and they look so happy, whereas you feel so tired and miserable. So instead of looking in the mirror and asking yourself, why am I so unhappy, they convince you with these aspirational ads that the reason why you're miserable is because you don't own those products and aren't doing those things, which only leads to you working harder in order to be able to afford all of that and to exhaust yourself by chasing after all kinds of things just to feel better. And then there's social media, people posting these filtered, exciting versions of their lives that make you believe everyone else is living a much better life than you. They show you the travels, the restaurants, the smiles and the glamour, but they don't show you their routine, their day-to-day life, do they? Because let's face it, most of the people in this world live in a routine of some sort. Even the richest man in the world has one, goes to work every day, does specific things at specific times, etc., etc. So there is really no point in torturing yourself with comparisons. Also, society wants you to keep moving all the time, to keep wanting things, so you'll work harder and compete with others to get them. The cards really are stacked up against us. So how exactly did I come to the conclusion that a boring life is a happy one, when I had all of that and was as miserable as I possibly could? There was a time in my life, pre-pandemic times, well, it was actually like the months before lockdown began, and I was living the dream. I was a full-time blogger and we had just started making good money. We had just bought our first apartment that ticked all our boxes, and the mega renovation we did on it was practically over. We were traveling every 2 months to a new exciting location. We picked a new fancy restaurant to try every week. I had no schedule whatsoever and had more free time on my hands than I actually knew what to do with it. And we lived in Portugal, on the coast, so we made it a point to go to the beach all the time and enjoy it as much as possible. We'd also go for hikes on the Sintra Mountains, went to the movies and the theater, and went out with friends and family often. All the things you'd expect out of a pretty great life, right? But every day I struggled to get up. I didn't have any energy and was anxious all the time. And then the pandemic came and everything changed for the entire world. And for me, it brought me peace. Now, I will say, the first few days were really hard. It was like I had been on a high-speed train that all of a sudden just stopped. I didn't know what to do with myself. Everything was closed, nothing to do, no one to see. What now? You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I'm sure it was just as weird for everyone else. So I learned how to make the bread, I completed every puzzle I could get my hands on, I subscribed to all the streaming services I could find, and walked the dog 4 times a day. And after all that came the boredom. And it was wonderful. We developed our very own calm, boring, predictable routine, with no distractions available to tempt us. We traded restaurants for cooking together every day. We traded the beach and the mountain for slow walks around our neighborhood, discovering all the secret spots of our new surroundings. We prioritized rest and time spent together over activities or stuff to do. I essentially found happiness in simple, everyday things and realized they made me much more fulfilled than the expensive, exciting things we used to fill our days with. And my excitement came from walking the dog somewhere new, reading a new book I loved, or learning things about Mike I didn't know during our long dinners. Now, of course I still want to travel, but I also realized that the best part of traveling really is returning home. That time spent with my pets is precious and worth spending. And as they say, the time you enjoy wasting isn't wasted time. That we need so much less to be happy than we are made to believe. Today, things have, of course, gone back to normal in the world, but I'm still holding on to my boring, uneventful routine. And I can honestly say I have never felt more fulfilled, particularly since I started this YouTube channel that not only brings extra excitement because I love doing it, but also allows me to connect with you guys, which is awesome. But if you're not convinced that there is something to be said about a boring life, here are my final arguments to you. Well, for starters, routine is what allowed me to create this channel in the first place, because predictability allows you the room to dream and be creative. All that space in your brain left empty by knowing exactly what you'll be doing allows you to focus on other things, have new ideas and even get more clarity in your life. Overall, it leaves room to focus on what's really important. It also significantly reduces your anxiety, of course. You know exactly what's going to happen, what you'll be doing, nothing unexpected will come up. No need to feel anxious about the unknown. No running around trying to cope with all the chaos, just peace and quiet comfort. Now, I'm not saying that you should forgo all excitement and stay away from anything that is outside of your routine. You know, that would make no sense. In fact, by living a boring life, I am able to appreciate the unknown and the unpredictable much more. It makes total sense if you think about it. You know, if you're constantly living with the unpredictable, it kind of becomes your routine, you know, never knowing what to expect. So you get used to it. But if you live a life in a predictable routine, anything that happens outside of it becomes new and exciting. A boring routine also makes it that much easier to identify and change the things that aren't working for you in your life, because they kind of stand out, you know, like a sore thumb. In a sea of calm and tranquility, something that rattles you and makes you anxious will be easy enough to spot. Like that friend that isn't really good for you and you only realize it when you meet them, and out of the calmness that is your life, you suddenly become unsettled. Or that job you had for years but is now the worst part of your life because everything else just flows so easily, you know? There's nothing left to camouflage or distract you from the things that are hurting you and making your life less enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, I am well aware that my boring life is very different and more exciting than most, but the things that make me happy these days are just different from what society deems fulfilling and happiness-inducing. Like the fact that I get to nap whenever I want, take long bubble baths, go for walks during the day, work with a cat or two on my lap, and manage my time as I please, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. But it is the routine that brings me the peace that allows me to enjoy these small things that make me so happy in my life. And you know, truthfully, anyone can enjoy it too, as long as they're willing to live a boring and predictable life. That is it for me today, and I will see you later. Bye bye.